and then be part of it the next. We can't do it. We have to decide. I am a child of God, and I'm going to walk with the light of the Lord in my hand, and I'm going to try and help folks. Or I'm not. We can't do both. And it's hard. It's hard some days. You get into politics. You get into money. You get into banks and financing. Even human resources in a little shop sometimes. There's different rules for different people. Why? Life is difficult. But I'll tell you this. If you make a stand for Jesus Christ, in everything you do, you won't be disappointed. You won't. You might wonder some days, boy, this is tough. But He's promised us that He will never leave us nor forsake us. John chapter 8, verses 3 through 12, on 757, if you're using a blue Bible, tells us this. The teachers of the law and the Pharisees brought in a woman caught in adultery. They made her stand before the group and said to Jesus, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. In the law, Moses commanded us to stone such a woman. Now, what do you say?" They were using this question as a trap in order to have a basis for accusing Him. But Jesus bent down and started to write on the ground with His finger. When they kept on questioning Him, He straightened up and said to them, "If any one of you is without sin, let him be the first to throw a stone at her." Again He stooped down and wrote on the ground. At this, those who heard began to go away, one at a time, the older ones first, until only Jesus was left with the woman still standing there. Jesus straightened up and asked her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" "No one, sir," she said. "Then neither do I condemn you." Jesus declared, "Go now and leave your life of sin." Leave your life of sin. You know, I've had to sit in a courtroom before. I sometimes have a heavy foot. And they like you to come to this beautiful building and walk into this wonderful courtroom and sit in a beautiful hard oak chair. And they ask you to come to the stand, and the judge says, "How do you plead?" And he gives you 3 options. But the officer's sitting right there that, and you hear, "No contest, no contest, no contest, no contest." What does the judge do? Pay the clerk. Pay the clerk. Pay the clerk. Right? You been there? What did Jesus do? Can you imagine how embarrassed this lady was? To be pulled into a meeting in front of all these religious leaders, all these people who have went around and said how pure you are and righteous you are. And they bring this lady in front of him. And he's writing on the ground, not even paying much attention to him. And when they have all left, and he's there alone, he gives her the best advice any of us can give anyone. He simply said, go and sin no more. Freedom. Freedom. Jesus offered her something nobody in that day would have ever done to her. They wanted to kill her, stone her, tie her to a tree, and beat her to death. Man! Why? Jesus spared her life with a simple question. Who among you is free from sin in your life? Who? Throw the first stone. Now, did they know Jesus was God Almighty at that time? No. Did he challenge their authority? Did he hop up and say, I'm going to tell you something? No. It said he stooped and wrote in the dirt. And simply said, who among you? I like talking with folks sometimes when they come with problems. And something I've realized over a few years is, do you know when you're sitting there talking with folks, if you listen closely enough, they've already answered the problems they're talking to you about. They've already offered themselves a solution to what they're going through. They just need to hear it from someone else. People aren't stupid. Folks know what's going on in their lives. And they know when they confess something, when they struggle with something, they know the answer. You don't need to throw it up to them. You don't need to put them down or embarrass them. You just need to help guide them. The best roadmap I've ever used is the Bible. I had a gal a few years back, well, a couple gals actually. They would cut. They'd take a knife and they'd cut themselves. And it gives them a rush. It makes them feel like they know what's going on. They get a high off of that. And the mom called me and she says, I don't know what to do. Could you talk with my daughter about this? I said, I'd love to, but I have two rules. Number one, I am never in a room alone with a lady. I don't care if she's 6 or 60. My wife is always there. And rule number 2, I will only use the Bible to help with this problem. If that's a problem with you, we might as well not even try it. She said, oh, really? I said, really? She brought her out to the house. Debbie and I would sit there and talk with her. Took about 4 months, but she accepted Christ. And the minute she did that, you know what? The cutting stopped. Today she's 23, and to my knowledge, she's never done it since. She was about 15 when all this started happening. Things go on in people's lives. We get mixed up. We get confused, teenagers especially. They're dealing with so much. I just read a statistic this morning. We were talking about not worrying in Sunday school. Do you know among Christian folks there's about a 73% problem with depression? The world only has about 40% problem with depression. Why is it so high in the Christian people? When we have the answer. He's right there. Did he judge this woman? No. Did he put her down and make her feel bad? No. What did he offer her? He offered her freedom in a spiritual sense. He told her to go, leave your life of sin. Sin no more. Go. And Jesus forgave her actions. Sometimes I think why there's so many problems with Christian folks is we don't give people second chances. We don't. But yet, Jesus gave me one. He's given me more than one. Chances I don't even deserve. The woman that was caught in adultery, sin is sin. This guy right here is sin some days. Things that come out of my mouth sometimes. I stop and think, oh, golly, why did you say that? Judgment. How many of us like to talk a little bit? Well, I don't understand why. We forget about the second, third, and fourth chance we were given. And we don't let other folks have the same chances. Sometimes it's a spouse. I was talking to a young man Friday in Walmart. He's a youth pastor. I've known him for a while. He was walking without his wife, which is kind of strange. I said, hey, what's going on, man? How you doing? How's church? How's youth? He goes, well, I don't do that no more. I said, why not? He said, my wife and I decided we didn't want to be married anymore. And the church didn't like that idea. I said, well, don't know what to tell you, bud. And I wanted to say, because I had just read this, I wanted to say, go and sin no more. Thought, well, better not do that. But I've been divorced. Debbie and I has been married 23 years, but before her was another lady for a very short time in my life. I was given a second chance. Should I judge somebody not? Should not somebody else deserve that same second chance? I sure hope so. I sure hope so. I wished I would have remembered this last year about Christmas time when I was pulled over for speeding. I should have said, geez, officer, you know, God has given me a second chance. Probably wouldn't have, but 59 and a 55. Doggone it. Man, that's picky, isn't it? But I was still speeding. Whether it's our spouse or a loved one or a child or even our employers, a second chance is what Christians are all about. That's who makes us who we are. We shouldn't judge or compare folks. We need to look beyond what our eyes and our minds understand and see. We need to look past that. Jesus did. We need to lean on Jesus and not our understanding. Give it to God. A second chance isn't always a bad thing. It's not.